Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today, we're going deep on something that's, well, it's kind of like the backbone of any successful business.
The sales plan.
You got it. We've been digging through tons of research, articles by experts, even some inspiring stories of businesses that totally nailed it. And you know what? They all point to one thing.
Having a solid sales plan.
Exactly. And it's not just about hitting those sales targets. We're talking about a much bigger picture here. It affects your entire business strategy.
It's surprising how many companies, especially, the newer ones, the smaller businesses, how many of them just don't have a clear sales plan.
It's like, whoa, you're going into this race with no finish line in sight. So let's break this down. Why is a sales plan so important? I mean, our sources are pretty clear on this one.
It's all about alignment. A sales plan makes sure all your business efforts are working together, everyone's moving in the same direction.
Okay, I like that. But how does that play out in the real world? Give us an example.
Well, for starters, think about your budget. A good sales plan doesn't just predict revenue. It helps you forecast costs, see potential dips coming, and allocate resources effectively.
So it's about managing the money, not just making it.
Right. And one source even called it the anticipation factor. Having a sales plan, it lets you spot those roadblocks, before they become major detours.
So you're being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. You can tweak your strategies, maybe even pivot your product offerings based on what your sales plan is telling you.
Makes sense. So we've got this roadmap, this game plan for our business. But how do we even start creating one?
Well, the sources we've been looking at, they actually outline a pretty clear process. 3 key phases.
3 phases. Okay. Break it down for us.
Phase 1, it's all about setting those objectives, for each market you're targeting.
So we got to be specific about what we want to achieve in each market.
Absolutely. And remember, every market is different. Your approach for, let's say, a mature market is going to be totally different from how you break into a brand new one.
Okay, so we've got our market objectives all set. What's next?
Phase 2. This is where we figure out the how. We're talking strategies here, the tactics, the actions that'll get us to those objectives.
It's like choosing the right vehicle for a road trip. A sports car might be fun, but you're not going to get very far off-road.
Exactly. You got to pick strategies that align with your objectives and, of course, with what you're actually capable of.
Right. Can your production keep up with those ambitious sales goals? Do you even have the talent to execute those strategies?
You got it.
So many things to consider. And speaking of crucial, our sources really emphasize this 3rd phase.
This is where we get down to the individual client level, setting specific objectives and strategies for each one, whether they're already a customer or a potential one.
So no more generic sales pitches, huh?
Nope. You need to really understand their journey, their timelines, what their pain points are.
So basically, tailoring our approach for each client.
Exactly. And it's not enough to just say we want to increase sales. We need those measurable targets.
Oh, you mean like actual numbers?
Yes. Revenue, number of contracts, new clients. Think of them like milestones on your GPS, helping you track your progress.
I love that analogy.
Yep.
Okay, so we've established why a sales plan is so important, and we've got a taste of those 3 key phases. But what happens if we try to go on this road trip without our trusty GPS?
That's where things can get a little tricky or even a little scary. It's like, imagine, a football team where the offense and the defense, they have no idea what each other are doing.
Oh, that's a recipe for disaster, for sure.
Yeah.
Everyone's on the field, but they're playing different games.
Right. And that's basically what happens in a business when there's no shared sales plan. Departments end up working in silos. You've got marketing saying one thing, sales doing something completely different. And it just creates a mess, confuses the customers, and ultimately, well, it hurts the business.
So no more mixed messages, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be on the same page.
Exactly. And that leads to another big risk, reactive decision-making. Without that roadmap, companies end up constantly putting out fires instead of, actually preventing them.
It's like, calmly steering your ship through a storm versus frantically bailing water while getting tossed around by the waves.
Perfect analogy. And when you're in that reactive mode, it's hard to make those smart decisions. You're missing opportunities, wasting resources, just feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, I can see how that lack of a plan can really hurt. But let's get practical for a second. Our listeners are probably thinking, okay, how do I actually build this sales plan?
Well, one of our sources, Formate and Ventas, they offer a really great step-by-step guide.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that.
And it all starts with like a really solid sales forecast. You got to understand your market, your customers, your past data to make, smart projections about the future.
So no more guessing games, huh? We need real data, real insights.
Absolutely. This is where things like market research and competitor analysis come in, really getting into the minds of your target audience.
Understanding the trends, what's coming next.
Right. And once you have that solid forecast, what's next? Well,
Hmm.
this source, they really emphasize those customer relationships.
So it's not just about closing the deal.
Nope. It's about building loyalty, turning those one-time buyers into, those customers who keep coming back for more.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. It's so much easier and cheaper to keep those current customers happy than to constantly be searching for new ones.
Exactly. It's all about customer lifetime value, recognizing that that first sale is just the beginning.
Okay, so we're forecasting, we're building relationships. What about the sales team, the people on the front lines?
This source makes a really good point about investing in your sales team. You got to give them the tools they need to succeed.
So it's not just about hiring good people.
Right. It's also about providing ongoing training, development, keeping their skills sharp.
Yeah, the sales world is constantly changing. What worked a few years ago might be totally useless now.
Think about all the new tech, the changes in how people buy things, social media. Salespeople need to be adaptable.
They need to be problem solvers, not just order takers.
Exactly. Invest in them, and they'll invest in your success.
Makes sense. Speaking of success, how do we actually measure it?
That's where those clear objectives and, those KPIs, those key performance indicators come in. Remember those SMART goals.
SMART goals. Okay, remind me what SMART stands for again.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Right. So instead of saying something vague like increase sales, we need a specific target.
Exactly. Like increase website conversions by 15% this quarter. It's about setting those milestones and then tracking our progress.
Okay, I like that. So it's like having that real-time feedback, letting you know if you're on track or need to adjust.
Exactly. And here's another key ingredient for a successful plan: figuring out what makes you stand out.
Oh, you mean our competitive advantage?
Yeah. Yes, what makes you different? Why should customers choose you over everyone else?
You got to offer something unique, something that really solves a problem for them.
And that goes back to understanding your target audience. What are their pain points? What solutions are they looking for?
Okay, so we're starting to see how all these pieces fit together. But what about the actual structure of the plan? How do we organize all this information?
For Mate and Ventas, they recommend breaking it down into sections.
Oh, okay, like what?
Market analysis, sales objectives, sales strategies, an action plan, resources, and then monitoring and evaluation.
Okay, break that down a little bit more for me.
Sure. Market analysis, that's all about understanding the competition and what your customers need.
Right, and then we define our sales objectives using those SMART goals.
Yeah. And then sales strategies, that's where you get creative and outline how you're going to achieve those objectives.
And then the action plan, that's the nitty-gritty, the specific steps.
Right. Who's doing what, when, and what milestones do we need to hit along the way?
And of course, we need resources, budget, people, technology.
And then finally, monitoring and evaluation. This is all about tracking those KPIs, looking at the data, and making adjustments as needed.
So it's not just a document that sits on a shelf.
No way. It's a living, breathing thing that should evolve as your business grows.
It's a garden. You got to tend to, make sure it's getting what it needs to grow.
I love that. And, creating a sales plan, it's about so much more than just, boosting those sales numbers. It's about understanding your business inside and out.
It's almost like holding up a mirror to your company.
Yes, it can be challenging, but
Yep.
it makes your business stronger and more adaptable in the long run.
Okay, I'm sold. A sales plan is essential. But let's be honest, I've worked at places where the sales plan was just this document that sat on a shelf, completely forgotten. How do we prevent that? How do we make sure it actually gets used?
That's a great question. And it brings us to a really important point. It's all about visibility. A sales plan just sitting there, gathering dust, it's not going to help anyone. It needs to be like front and center, something that everyone's using, every day.
So it's not enough to just write it and forget about it.
Right. Everyone in the company needs to know about it, understand it, and actually use it.
And that means what? Communication,
Yeah.
transparency.
Exactly. Everyone needs to be on board. And the leadership, they have a really important role here.
So it's up to the CEO, the sales director, those leaders to champion this sales plan.
Yes. Make sure it's not just a file somewhere, but, something that guides all of those decisions.
A lot of the sources we looked at, they talked about cascading that plan down through the ranks, making sure it reaches everyone.
Right. It's not just for the executives. everyone, from marketing to customer service, needs to be on the same page.
I like the idea of having a visual representation of the plan, like a flow chart or something.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Make it easy to understand, engaging, and don't forget those regular progress updates.
Keep everyone in the loop. Celebrate the wins, tackle the challenges together.
Exactly. It's about that shared ownership. When everyone feels like they're a part of it, they're going to work harder to make it succeed.
I'm really seeing the importance of visibility now. A sales plan, it's more than just about revenue. It brings everyone together, creates a shared vision.
Like an orchestra playing the same symphony,
Beautifully said. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of sales plans. We talked about why they're so important, how to build one, and how to make sure everyone's on board.
And we even touched on applying those same principles to our personal goals, which is pretty cool to think about.
Definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
So to all our listeners, as you go back to your businesses, your lives, we challenge you to think about how you can use what we talked about today. How can you level up, reach your goals?
Take some time, grab a notebook, and start mapping out your own path to success.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep.